you started the band in 1977, and now you are playing the first time in Austria. How comes?
Very first time in Vienna or Austria, either one, and it's a pleasure to be here. We're very honored to be here doing this right now. It's great. Beautiful country. I mean, it's like the main place for classical music way back when, or opera, the Vienna Boys Choir and all this. And when I was very young, when I was a little boy, I had a voice like a Vienna Boys Choir voice, you know, really, really high. And obviously it changed over the years. But yeah, we're really proud to be here. This is a great honor for us to be here playing.
How is the tour going so far? Any special highlights?
It's been going great. Several highlights, almost every show, actually. We hadn't really toured much in Spain or France, either one, and the Fall of Summer Festival was really cool in France. The Pyrenean Warriors Open Air Festival was really cool. It's just their second year of doing it, but they're doing it really well. Good organization, and the people that go to that festival are really into the music. It's not a commercial type thing at all. It's just about the music, which is really cool. The shows we had in Spain were fantastic. Barcelona, Madrid, Murcia, Jaén, Saragossa. It was a great time.
40 years is a very long time. Can you give me a short summary of the last 40 years or 39 years? I mean, especially what you think, what were the milestones of the band history?
Well, just getting started was a milestone alone, because, we're just, except for Neudi, of course, we're just some homebred Kansas cowboys, and, if you would have asked me 39 years ago if I would be here in Vienna, Austria, doing this interview right now and playing these shows, I would have had no clue. And but the 40 years, I mean, the first couple albums for a few years were more like space metal, space rock metal that we were doing. And then in 1983, we started getting a little bit more doom and heavy metal oriented, and we did our Crystal Logic album, and the song Flaming Metal Systems was a huge milestone for us, because it's what sort of introduced Manilla Road to the international stage. We got the chance to do the song for US Metal Volume 3, Mike Varney's Shrapnel Records, and it appeared that it was the most popular song on the album. And so it sort of helped launch us, and we did Crystal Logic, of course, and that's what opened up the distribution for us in Europe, and then we got signed by Black Dragon Records in Paris, France, and we did Open the Gates in the Deluge and Mystification, and things were going really well, but then the market changed a lot, and things slowed down for us from Mystification on for a while. And there were a couple of years that the band sort of just didn't do anything at all, and then we put the band back together with a little different lineup, and we played in our local state, for a few years, but at that time no labels were really interested in us or anything, so that was a really tough time. And but then around 2000, things started picking up for us again, and we got a reissue contract for the Crystal Logic album, and we put the band back together and started making albums again, had labels in Europe interested in us again.
Do you plan anything special for next year, 40 years anniversary?
Absolutely. You want to tell them about the Keep It True?
I can tell him about Keep It True, because it's in Germany anyway. Yeah, we will play the Keep It True festival, and we have the original drummer Randy Fox with us, who plays from Open the Gates until Chords of Chaos. We did a similar show in Athens, but this was a one-off, but for Keep It True we do it again. He will play at least 1 hour, and I think nearly the whole Mystification album, maybe, or maybe because it has also an anniversary, I think. Yeah.
Right.
And
30th anniversary for Mystification.
Yeah. And then the next part I will play. So it will be 2 drummers in a row, old school set, and yeah, fitting to also the anniversary of Keep It True Festival. So everything's perfect on that day.
Yeah, it's the 20th anniversary of Keep It True,
Yeah.
the 30th anniversary of Mystification album, and then the 40th anniversary of Manilla Road being a band. So it's like 3 anniversaries all in one show, and it's great. And we'll be doing some other shows next year, of course, too. But that's going to be a pretty special one because Randy's going to be involved with it, and Randy's his favorite drummer pretty much. So it's really great for him that he gets to play with him and share the stage with him, and it's cool for us that we get to sort of relive some of the past with Randy and everything. And yeah, really great.
Once you described, at least I read so, Chords of Chaos of the first really masterpiece of Manilla Road. Most fans would say it was Crystal Logic or Open the Gates. Why Chords of Chaos?
Actually, I think The Deluge was our first masterpiece. Chords of Chaos was a real interesting album, and I don't know. I think The Deluge was probably the one that I think was the first real masterpiece of the band. The others that I'd have to say that are my favorites are like Gates of Fire, and then I love Mystification too, but I don't think the production was as good as it should have been. And then The Blessed Curse, our newest album that just came out last year, is one of my favorites as well. But we're working on a new one right now that will be out next year, and I'm really happy with that one too. So I think it's going to end up there with my favorites as well. So, but Chords of Chaos was it was pretty progressive. We were starting to jump off into some other, progressive attitude stuff, but we were still doing a little bit of thrash. I think it was one of the albums that we really started doing a little bit of everything in, and I think that was very important for us. And ever since, our albums have had a little bit of every different style that we've touched on, plus a few new ones, and then of course the traditional Manilla Road sound as well. And it's really hard for me to pick favorites because there's songs on every album that I love, and it's always hard for me to gauge what's going to be popular with our fan base, and I think it's because I'm too involved in the creation of the music, and so I never know what to expect from our fans, whether they're going to like it or not. And it's always a surprise when an album's been out for a little while and we find out, oh, well, this song seems to be the most popular. I'm like, really? Wow, okay. First of all, the very first album I ever bought was Meet the Beatles. So, and what I love about the Beatles was their vocal harmonies. I thought their vocal melodies and harmonies were just extremely cool. And but as far as the hard rock and heavy metal style of music, my main influences are like Uriah Heep, UFO, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, the traditional old stuff. But I grew up in Kansas, so I was really into bands like ZZ Top and Leonard Skinner and stuff like that too. But as time progressed on, then I became more influenced by bands like Judas Priest and maybe Iron Maiden a little bit, and especially their early stuff, Iron Maiden's early stuff. Then came bands like Slayer. Once Rain and Blood came out, I was like, oh yeah, that's fucking heavy. I love that shit, I really didn't like Slayer much before that album, but when that album came out, I was like, okay, these guys are good. I like them now. And but I have a lot of other influences. I was an educated musician. My mother's a music teacher, retired now. And so I was raised with jazz and classical music. And so I've been extremely influenced by composers like Wagner, Beethoven, Mozart, Bach, Johann Sebastian, not Philippe Emanuel. I actually like Johann better. and then some jazz and blues, and there's a lot of old blues that I really like John Lee Hooker, B.B. King, Fats Domino, things like that. I was a pretty big Jimi Hendrix and Chuck Berry fan. Johnny Winter, You know, love that stuff.
Obviously, blood rock also.
Yeah, I like blood rock, and you know, to tell you the truth, I'm really influenced by just about anything I like, and even the stuff I don't like influences me because it influences me not to play like that. You know.
Back in the 80s, I remember pretty well. I was maybe the only Manilla Road fan in the area I lived in. All my other friends, they were chasing for the next heavier thing. Possessed, and it ended up with Cryptic Slaughter and Hyrex and stuff like that. I listened to that too, and I love that still to this day. But I still like Manilla Road, but all the other guys were, oh, that's not heavy enough, or something like that. So I would say Manilla Road never was trendy, or in the 80s, or a kind of trend in that moment. I think Manilla Road is more trendy these days in this heavy metal back to the roots thing than maybe even back in the 80s.
Yeah, but that's sort of an accident, though. You know? When we started, obviously, you always have that dream of becoming a rich and famous rock star, you know, all the women, drugs, and rock and roll and all that. But after a while, you know, it was more like always an uphill grind. Like it was always really hard to make anything happen or to become popular like that, especially since most of the record labels back then really didn't care about us at all. I remember seeing reviews of our stuff from magazines in England like Krang, where they said we were satanic dirge music, and somewhere along the line they called us the ugliest band in rock and stuff like that. So it was always an uphill grind. But at one point, no, I think in the 80s, you know, there was a moment that we thought maybe it was going to happen when we did Crystal Logic Open the Gates and The Deluge, because we were selling a lot of albums and everything seemed to be going really well. But then the market slowed down a lot, and in the 90s, metal was almost non-existent, you know, in America, and I think it was maybe that way in some parts of Europe as well. And so at that time, no, I didn't think that I'd ever, you know, get to the point that we're at now. Black Dragon, after they put out The Deluge, they had problems with their distribution. Their distribution company in France got shut down by the government and for illegal activity, if I remember rightly. And I think they were related to the French mafia or something like that. And so, you know, the company lost their distribution, and once money got tight for them, they didn't pay us much anymore, and things went really south really quick for us there for a while.
In the first 2 years, Black Dragon record, if you see what they have released, Manilla Road, Leech Lord, Savage Grace, Hair Apparent, and I've forgot many now. It's unbelievable what they did in these first 2 years. It was only good albums. And then, of course, like any label, the first not so interesting albums from several bands came in
you forgot
also.
Candlemas.
Oh, yeah. This was the second year still. Yeah, and I think this is also a problem because they lost a little of their style with bands like Smack or Per Gynt. Even I love them personally, but it was not that typical, okay, you can grab any Black Dragon album and it's great. I think that stopped in the third year of their career. In Germany, without internet, I thought, okay, Manilla Road is dead. The last album for me was Circus Maximus. As we know, it was not a real Manilla Road album, but this was the last sign of the band for me in Germany. And when I got internet, it was 97 or 98, I started to make a fan homepage. Just because I felt, hey, that's my favorite band, and I don't want that anybody in Europe or worldwide forgets how great this band is. And this is more or less how we met online. Yeah.
He made the page, and he contacted us, and we started talking a lot, and we became really good friends on the internet. And then in 2000, when we came to Europe for the first time, we met, and we had been friends for a long time, really good friends. And then we ended up in a situation in 2011 where our drummer at that time, Corey Christner, he couldn't tour anymore outside of the States, and we needed a drummer that could tour with us and play the music, you know, of all the drummers that had been with us. And you know, that's when Neudi came into the picture as far as the drummer, and he was basically our first choice, and I think we were his first choice too. Yeah. And it just sort of went, snowballed from there.
It's not on purpose. It's more than that in the bands I played in before Manilla Road, I never was able to play the way I like, because when I listened to The Deluge the first time, the first song, Dementia, before I even was able to listen to the whole album, I put the needle back again. What did they play? What is this drummer doing here? And this influenced me. And I really had problems when recording albums because producers tell me, hey, you play way too much, please play more straight. So in fact, Manilla Road is the first band where I can play like I really am. And this is because maybe I was influenced as a 15-year-old from the original drummer, Randy Fox. Yeah. But also Ian Pace in Burn, he plays breaks in the verses. Usually a producer would say, hey, don't do that. And I love that, even back then, yeah.
See, when we're working in the studio, I don't ever tell him, hey, don't play so much. I'm more like, hey, go off. Do whatever you want. Get crazy, And I think he appreciates that, and I appreciate it when he does it. So, because I love drums. I love cool drums, and last thing I want to hear in a song is just boom, chick, boom, chick, boom, chick, Heard that a lot.
I would get depressive in an AC/DC tribute band for sure.
We have a new album that we're almost finished with that will come out next year. It'll most likely be on Golden Core Records again. We have reissues that are coming out all the time. The new reissues are just full of all sorts of old antiquity music that has never been heard before. Sometimes old mixes and stuff like that, and sometimes songs that have never even been put on an album. And also I've got another band called Hellwell that our second album is coming out, and Randy Fox is now the drummer for that band, so that's something for Randy Fox fans to look forward to. I've just finished an album with Rick Fisher, one of the original drummers for Manilla Road, that looks like we're in the process of negotiating a deal for it as well with a good label. And so that should be coming out next year. And then, of course, the Manilla Road album, new Manilla Road album will come out also. So we have, and next year's the 40th anniversary, so we're going to play live as much as we can and really celebrate the fact that the band's been around for 40 years. And and hope that we can play for another 20 or 30 or 40 years more. Or 50. Yeah, I'll only be 120 or something like that.
We call that, then you are Johannes Heesters here in Europe.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much for your undying support, and up the hammers and down the nails.
And to all the Austrian fans, ja meh.
Yeah, man.
Jungle by the river Styx, I've journeyed long and far this day, lurking shadows in the parapets will never make me turn away. Darkened city veiled in crimson mist, entombed in time without decay. Never thought it would be like this. It feels like I'm living inside a dream, but my mind tells me I'm lost in the crowd. Lost in the crowd. Breaking free from all the spells chained to my head, sword and axe on my destiny. I watch the stars turning blood red. There is light, yes, I've got to believe, for this feels like living inside a